Sunbelt material handling on a Chamber of Commerce weather day as well. TAB represents companies of every size and industry from every part of the state. We work with over 200 chambers from across the state of Texas. And our purpose is to champion the best business climate in the world, unleashing the power of free enterprise to enhance lives for generations. But we can't do that without a pro-business governor, which is why the Biz PAC has proudly endorsed Governor Greg Abbott. Under Governor Abbott's leadership, Texas has become the premier economic destination, not only in the United States, but in the world. We lead on exports, energy, agriculture, advanced manufacturing, population growth, and we also have the world's best barbecue. We have become this shining city on the hill for job creators because of the hard work of Governor Greg Abbott, and people are moving here in droves from all around the country because they are tired of high taxes and anti-business policies in other states. Governor Greg Abbott has worked to keep the Texas tax and regulatory environment business friendly. And as a result of his hard work, we've attracted over 230 corporate headquarters since 2015, more than any other state. And we now have the 9th largest economy in the world. It's over $2 trillion. For 17 years in a row, the Lone Star State has been named the best state for business. And with Governor Greg Abbott's leadership, Texas will retain that title for years to come. But there are some who are taking aim at the very policies that have made the U.S. the most successful country in the history of the world. And there is no governor in America who has a better track record of fighting back. And we know that Governor Greg Abbott will continue to stand firm and protect the Texas miracle. TAB is honored to be part of this event today, and the Biz PAC could not be more proud to endorse the business community's greatest partner, Governor Greg Abbott. Thank you, Governor.
Lynn, thank you. George, thanks for having us. Governor, thank you for letting us participate also today. My name is John Esparza. I'm the president of the Texas Trucking Association. Appropriate that we're sitting here in San Antonio having this conversation today, and that I get to speak after Glenn, because 1 out of every 15 jobs in this state is in trucking. Nobody understands that and has understood that more than the governor. And I can tell you from experience, I've been doing this now 15 years. When he was Attorney General, he had concerns about the safety, security, but the infrastructure of this state, to the extent that we talk regularly about what's on truckers' minds. What do we need to do to keep transportation flowing? It is a tremendous challenge. And I can also proudly say from experience of the last couple of years, when all of this business broke loose a couple of years ago and we didn't know what was going on, the first call that we got before you ever read it in the press was, John, how do we ensure that the trucks keep moving? Knowing that goods had to continue to be out there on our highways to continue to meet the demands of the rest of us that were staying home. It was truckers. It was the people driving these forklifts back here that still had to be at work every day to get what they get done. Essential workers, and that's now become such a common name. But Governor Abbott, not just because of the relationship that we've had the number of years, but continues to see change and continues to keep his thumb on the pulse of the trucking community. And I can assure you, when you talk about places like San Antonio, across the state, where freight and trucks in particular are delivering more than 83% exclusively goods to these communities. And even when you have ports and airports and rail, first mile, last mile, you will always have trucks out there. And frankly, 2 years of this pandemic has been a challenge for all of us, and there's no question. There's been no better leader. And I've got a number of my members back here to echo that message here today from all over the state. No better leader that we've had to take us through this pandemic than Governor Abbott. And we want to continue to work with Governor Abbott and proudly endorse through the Texas Trucking Association and our Truck PAC, Governor Abbott to continue to be the leader that he has been for the state of Texas, because we know that's what we will expect as he continues to lead us. So thank you very much.
Good morning, Governor Abbott. Thank you for including us. And George, thank you for hosting this. I'm Tony Bennett, President and CEO of the Texas Association of Manufacturers, and I'm also a board member of our Manufacturers PAC of Texas. We proudly endorse Governor Greg Abbott once again and enjoy working with him and his staff. Governor Abbott totally understands that to keep the Texas business environment #1 in the world, there are a lot of things that you've got to do. We are absolutely pleased that his staff and all of his senior folks in his office are totally understand that manufacturing is a core element of the Texas economy. It has a very high jobs multiple. By that I mean for every manufacturing job that we can create or retain, an average of 5 additional jobs show up in your community. In some cases, aerospace, for example, petrochemical jobs can be as high as 9-to-1 jobs multiple. #1 exporting state in the USA for 2 decades running. Site Selection Magazine, 9 years in a row with a Governor's Cup Award. Obviously, you cannot argue with these metrics on who is leading the globe state-wise with a business environment. 880,000 Texans directly are employed in manufacturing in the state. So if you take the multiple, you have 4 to 5 million jobs attributable to manufacturing in Texas. The average compensation for manufacturing workers, $90,000 a year on average. This is why Governor Abbott understands that reasonable regulation, reasonable taxation will keep the Texas miracle continuing for many years to come, and we proudly support him for re-election. Thank you, Governor.
Good morning, and thank you, Governor Abbott, for allowing me to join you here today. My name is April Ancira, and I'm the Vice President of the Ancira Auto Group based here in San Antonio. I'm the immediate past chair of the Texas Automobile Dealers Association and the current chair of the San Antonio Automobile Dealers Association. I am here today on behalf of the Texas Automobile Dealers Association to announce the support of TADA and the TADA PAC for Governor Abbott. TADA represents nearly 1,400 franchise dealerships in 290 Texas cities and towns. These dealerships employ over 100,000 Texans and are responsible for nearly 20% of all retail sales in the state. I would like to thank the governor for all his efforts to create the best business climate in the nation here in Texas. With the combination of a reasonable and predictable tax, regulatory, and legal climate, Texas businesses and their employees prosper. And when local family-owned businesses like the franchise dealerships prosper with their employees, the Texas communities in which they are based prosper as well. Governor Abbott has been a long-standing advocate for the dealer franchise rights and franchise system that benefits Texas and Texans. During his time as the Attorney General, he defended Texas law and the rights of Texas dealers. And he has supported our efforts to ensure that choice, competition, and convenience continue to prevail in the retail automobile industry here in Texas. As said before already here today, we'd like to say that the state of Texas and the franchise dealerships in Texas have created a perfect economic engine for the 9th largest economy in the world. And quite frankly, I would say Texas is the best state in the nation and the best place in the world to be in the franchise new car and truck business. On behalf of the TADA and the TADA PAC, I would like to say thank you, Governor Abbott. We are pleased to support your candidacy to remain the governor of Texas.
My name is Patrick Richardson. I am honored to be here today representing restaurants across Texas on behalf of the Texas Restaurant Association PAC endorsing Governor Abbott for governor. 2 years ago, restaurateurs across the state mourned having to close their business. Something special occurred along the way. Many banded together through the guidance of the Restaurant Association and started having conversations, grassroots efforts, speaking to local politicians, national politicians, and state leaders. Governor Abbott, we know you're a great listener. You actually heard the concerns and plight that we had. We went from having lockdowns to having smart safety protocols that many of us today still enact in creating a safe environment for guests. We presented innovative ideas that the state had never had before. You backed us up in the Cocktails to Go program. Many of us were very concerned with liability and the potential to be sued in frivolous lawsuits based on the pandemic, and you supported those efforts. Additionally, you saw the struggles that we were having recovering. You limited tax consequences, whether through franchise or other means. Today, we still face consequences. Today, they're just as big, and including inflation, supply chain disruptions, and labor challenges. The Texas restaurant across the state knows that Governor Abbott is listening and is the right leader to join us in solving these problems to make Texas the best state to live, work, and build a small business in. Thank you.
Well, good morning. My name is Christopher Williston, the President and CEO of the Independent Bankers Association of Texas. I am pleased to be here today and to have the opportunity not only to say thank you to Governor Greg Abbott, but also to offer IBAT's endorsement for our governor, Greg Abbott, for the third time since 2014. IBAT has the honor of representing 300 community financial institutions around our great state. If you get anywhere outside the major metro areas, you'll see all of these bank logos on the high school scoreboards and the back of Little League uniforms, and they give countless resources to local organizations, and their employees' hands are always at work serving the various needs of the communities that they call home. But most importantly, they make the dreams come true for small business people, individuals, and families across the economic spectrum. They do the right things the right ways for the right reasons. Just as Governor Abbott has provided us incredible leadership through the challenges of the last couple of years, our state's community banks were unrivaled leaders in supporting our local and state economies by delivering the majority of paycheck protection loans to small businesses throughout the state of Texas, and so many that are represented up here with us today. We helped keep employees and suppliers paid until we could safely reopen to serve consumers throughout our great state. There's no doubt it's already been identified how well Governor Abbott has delivered on his promise of making Texas the best place to live and do business in these United States. And certainly, as a heavily regulated industry like banking, we appreciate the balanced approach that the Abbott administration has taken here in the state of Texas to ensure that we have appropriate oversight of our financial institutions, but also balanced consumer protections so that we can serve our customers and make a profit at the same time. It is in Texas as it should be everywhere, but often isn't. Looking ahead, an educated workforce is so important to our financial institutions, but also to make sure that we have successful customers. We know this mission is never completed, but we also know what a priority it is for this administration in education funding. The last 2 years have reinforced the importance of things like adequate broadband coverage, as more and more of our education, our healthcare, our commerce, and our financial services are predicated on being able to be conducted remotely. Governor Abbott has been a leader in expanding this important infrastructure to the underserved areas across our state. High taxes and overly cumbersome bureaucracy in other states has brought so many business here, as has been noted. They clearly see something here that doesn't exist elsewhere. So today we celebrate and appreciate the steady hand, leadership, and vision that Governor Abbott has brought to our state over the last 7 years. And we know that whatever challenges and opportunities we face as a state, that they'll be met head on. With that, let me say one more time how pleased I am to continue to offer the endorsement of the Independent Bankers Association of Texas to Governor Greg Abbott.
Good morning, and thank you for having me. My name is Annie Spillman, and I'm the State Director for NFIB in Texas. We truly are the only organization in our nation's capital and in each of our states that represents the voice of small business. And I'm proud to say that we work alongside of all of these industry groups very well. I'm also very proud to say that NFIB Texas PAC proudly endorses Governor Greg Abbott and has since his time as Attorney General. We've got about 20,000 members in the state of Texas, and we have members that represent pretty much every economic sector from this economy. And one of my favorite quotes, which I think really stands the test of time, was from President Dwight D. Eisenhower, and it says, you know, farming looks mighty easy when your plow is your pencil and you're thousands of miles from the cornfield. Well, that's not the case with this guy. Governor Abbott has not only been effective and efficient, but he's listened to our members. We're a member-run organization, and so everything that comes to me from my members, we take to he and his staff. But not just that. He's gone around the state and had listening sessions with our members and truly come to us and said, what can we do to help? And I'll be really honest, you know, the small business community doesn't necessarily ask for handouts. We're not necessarily proactive on pushing certain legislation. We're just trying to get the government out of the way. And I appreciate you doing that. But at the same time, truly creating pathways for people to trailblaze and become entrepreneurs. And, you know, when we poll our members, uncertainty over economic conditions right now, uncertainty over government action, government intervention, cost of health insurance, taxes, regulation, have been their top problems and priorities. And they've been able to keep their doors open in this state because of leaders like Governor Abbott. You know, we often say that taxes are the hidden regulation on business. Regulation to a small business owner costs them about 36% more, about $30,000 per employee a year just to implement. And because of your steadfast protection over keeping regulatory barriers down and taxes down, they haven't necessarily had to face that. The economic uncertainty is something that we can't control. Supply chain issues right now, inflation, labor shortage. That's there, and that's a hurdle. But those hurdles have not been exacerbated by regulatory barriers and taxes, and we thank you for that. You've let them be able to take care of their employees, and there are many politicians that want to put the employer against the employee, you know, the boss against the worker, and that's not the way it works in the real world, in Texas anyway. They work together, they want to take care of their employees, and they've been able to do that. And one of the most important things you've done as governor is really prioritize workforce skills training. And, you know, NFIB was part of the Keep Texas Trucking Coalition. And to keep those, you know, the liability down on truckers and just commercial vehicles, you know, in general, down so they can go and take care of Texans. But same so that business owners can remain open and they don't have, you know, ambulance chasing lawyers coming after them. At any rate, we appreciate everything that you've done. You've proven yourself, and you've not only been a leader, but you've been a friend to all of us. And thank you so much. And again, NFIB Texas PAC is very proud to endorse you, and we will as long as you want to be around. So thank you.
Good morning. I'm George Munford with Sunbelt Material Handling. We're a forklift dealership with locations in Oklahoma City, Tulsa, our headquarters in Dallas, Austin, and as of January 1st, San Antonio. When we were approached by NFIB about hosting this event, we didn't hesitate to agree to take it. Our business over the last 2 years of this pandemic has flourished, and a lot of that was because of the pro-business atmosphere here in the state of Texas fostered by Governor Abbott. As you all know, supply chain issues have hit everyone hard, and we feel that forklifts are the backbone of the supply chain. You know, the semi-trucks don't load themselves. So I'd also like to take this opportunity to really thank our co-workers who for the last 2 years never stopped, never complained. They were the essential workers. They were keeping these lifts going, keeping the supplies moving as best they could, doing their part. So thank you to all of them. And of course, now I'd like to introduce the Governor of the great state of Texas, Greg Abbott.
Well, first, let me start out by thanking George and Sunbelt Material Handling for opening up this facility for this wonderful event. Thank you also for the men and women that you employ, that you put to work to make sure we keep Texas growing and maintain those construction projects. You know, a lot of people over the course of their remarks today talked about how Texas is #1 in so many categories. Looking around your facility today and on my drive here, looking at all of the construction projects I'm seeing, I'm thinking Texas may be #1 in forklifts also. We'll find out pretty soon. But listen, I'm proud of you all. I do want to double down and express both my pride and my gratitude for all the men and women who typically wear hard hats working in your industry sector. They are taking the lead in building the great state of Texas. Also, I want to thank all of these organizations for their incredible endorsement for my re-election campaign. These are organizations that represent the job creators and the small businesses across our state. Organizations whose primary purpose is to keep Texas the best state in America for doing business. I want to thank those who are sitting at the table. Glenn Hammer with the Texas Association of Business and Texas Biz PAC, thank you for being here. Thank you for your endorsement. John Esparza, a good friend, President and CEO of the Texas Trucking Association and Truck PAC, thank you. Tony Bennett, President and CEO of the Texas Association of Manufacturers and board member of Impact, thank you, sir, for being here. April, good to see you again. Thank you for your past chair service for the Texas Auto Dealers Association. Patrick Richardson with the Texas Restaurant Association, TRA PAC. Christopher Wilston, President and CEO of the Independent Bankers Association of Texas. And Annie Spillman, the Texas State Director for the National Federation of Independent Business, Texas PAC. Now, in addition to those sitting at the table, there are other organizations that are announcing their endorsement today, many of whom are represented by those who are standing behind us, some who are not present here today. But those who are also announcing their endorsement today involving the business sector include the Texas Recreational Vehicle Association, the Texas Pyrotechnic Association, Wholesale Beer Distributors of Texas, Texas Sport PAC, Texas Independent Automobile Dealers Association, Boating Trades Association of Texas, Texas Water Quality Association, Texans for Lawsuit Reform PAC, the Auto Body Association of Texas, Texas Travel Association Travel PAC, Beer Alliance of Texas, Texas Waterway Operators Association, Texas Association of Campground Owners, Rural Friends of Electric Cooperatives, Texas Civil Justice League PAC, Houston Region Business Coalition, Operators Political, Educational, and Retirement Awareness Towards Elections, Aransas Corpus Christi Pilots PAC, Sabine Pilots PAC, Houston Pilots PAC, the Texas Mortgage Bankers Association, Independent Insurance Agents of Texas, Texas Package Stores Association, and Texas Bankers Association. Let me sum it up this way. If you look at all of the employees for all of these associations who are endorsing today, I think is well over a majority of the private sector employees in Texas are represented by these organizations who are so committed to making sure that we maintain the best business climate in America. And I want to thank all of you all, as well as your members, for what you do to create jobs and to keep Texas the best state for doing business. And also I want to thank you for your support and your endorsement. Because of the businesses and the Texans that you all represent, as you all have heard many times over already today, Texas remains the #1 destination in America for economic growth. We are and have been the #1 state ranked as the best state for business every year that I've been governor. And we've been ranked the #1 state in America for the most economic development projects every year that I've been governor. We've been ranked, this is very important to you, we've been ranked the #1 state now as the best state to start a small business. And as you heard earlier, it was announced today that Texas has been ranked now for 20 years in a row as the #1 state in America for exports. And when you add all that together, it means two very prolific points. One is that Texas now has the 9th largest economy in the entire world. Over the time of COVID, Texas surpassed Brazil, going from 10th to 9th in the largest economy in the entire world. But more important than all that, to bring this home to the men and women across the state of Texas, what all these people here together have been able to accomplish is that as we gather just outside of San Antonio today, more Texans have jobs than ever before in the history of our state. Our success is owed to businesses both large and small. Businesses like Wally's Burger Express in Austin, owned for 41 years by Robert Mayfield. Robert said that our state's success didn't happen by accident. He said, and I quote, "It happened because Texas stands for free enterprise, low taxes, fewer meddlesome regulations, and the chance to live the American dream." He's right. Texas is the American dream. And today it's the American dream for a far more diverse group of Texans than ever before. Texas is also now the #1 state in America for jobs created by black business owners and Hispanic women business owners. Everyone can succeed in Texas. To keep Texas businesses thriving, we have slashed regulations and burdensome red tape. We passed COVID liability protections for businesses across the state. We reformed ERNCOT and winterized the grid. And we have cut property taxes every session that I have been governor. And not only have we prohibited an income tax, we made an income tax unconstitutional in the great state of Texas. My promise to these business organizations and every Texan is the state of Texas will continue to keep taxes low and rein in property taxes, keep regulations reasonable and predictable, invest in a robust infrastructure, and develop the best workforce in the United States of America. With your ongoing support, we will keep Texas the best state to live, to work, to raise a family, and to do business. Thank you all very much for your support. All the best in your future endeavors. We'll take a few questions. Sure. Listen, I'm going to be happy to answer your question. Before we start taking off-topic questions, let me address any questions that may arise concerning the topic we talked about today. Then I'll come to you next.
Can I ask you about, obviously, the power grid failures from last year and recruiting businesses that come to the state? Is that coming up as you talk to other businesses as to whether or not the grid has been fully fixed? And are there other things that you need to do to make sure businesses don't lose business like they did last year when the grid went down like all of us?
Yeah, a couple of questions. I'll answer them all. First, over the past year, since Winter Storm Uri, we set an all-time record for the number of businesses that actually moved their headquarters to the state of Texas. Not only was it an all-time record, it was almost double the second highest number. The people who make decisions to relocate their business, which is a very expensive proposition to go through all that time and hassle of undertaking a move, they invest a lot of money into studying things like the power grid, and all their studies proved exactly what we were able to prove this past week. The power grid is more resilient, more stable, and stronger than it's ever been in the history of our state. In addition to those that moved their headquarters here, we also saw a massive number of economic expansions. Some easy examples, and that is the Samsung semiconductor facility just outside of Austin, Texas, as well as the Texas Instruments semiconductor facility. Those were not headquarter moves. They were massive investments totaling almost $50 billion in the state of Texas that will be connected to the power grid, and they know full well that the power grid is going to continue to function. And let me explain that. What we did to make sure that we did have a strong and resilient power grid, I signed 14 laws over the last session. By the way, 14 laws that were supported overwhelmingly in a bipartisan way. Both Democrats and Republicans agreed with these 14 laws that reformed the power grid. Meaningfully, it led to Texas having 15% more power generation capacity. It led to winterization that protected power facilities across the state. More natural gas facilities were designated as structure. During Winter Storm Uri, there were less than 100 natural gas facilities designated as critical infrastructure. Now there are more than 2,900 designated as critical infrastructure. There was an increase in power generators online because of improved maintenance schedules. Last winter storm last year, many of the power generating facilities were undergoing maintenance at the time. PUC saw that. They wanted to make sure that no one would be undergoing maintenance during the height of the winter season, and they kept those facilities online. PUC also made sure that the power generators had an availability of alternative fuels to generate more power. And you also saw this year something that was different than last year, and that is all the different sectors in the power generation system, from the wellhead to those who generate the electrons themselves and deliver it to homes. They worked with greater collaboration. Most importantly, however, would be the tangible results that we saw delivered as a result of these improvements. At the height of the power generation supply over the winter storm that we just passed, they were able to generate more than 86,000 megawatts of power. And that far exceeds the estimated peak demand during Winter Storm Uri. ERCOT forecasted that peak winter demand during Uri was about 77,000 megawatts of power. That's 9,000 megawatts less than this event's high available power supply. This event's high available power supply is enough to supply power to about 1.9 million homes, in addition to what was actually used. And so, and also this winter storm that we just went through, according to estimates that I have been provided, and this was the second highest demand for power that we ever went through. Uri was the most, obviously. Maybe second most was 2011, and the reports I've been given is that we exceeded this year the demand in 2011. Point, however, most importantly, we had far more power than what was needed to respond to Winter Storm Uri.
Two more questions? Governor, I have a question about business. Federal O'Rourke is having a campaign stop about 10 miles from here. In your opinion, what would the Texas business climate be like if Beto O'Rourke were to become governor or another Democrat?
So let's just talk about what Beto has said. What Beto has said is he has policies that are extremely hostile to the oil and gas sector as we know it today. There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of employees that are working in the oil and gas sector. Obviously, those who produce oil and gas, but if you look at people who provide forklifts for the oil and gas sector, those jobs would be crushed. And if you looked at the taxes he's talked about imposing and the regulations they would impose, it would put a stranglehold on the jobs that are created by the men and women who are representing so many industries that are gathered here today. That's why one of the reasons they so strongly support me, because they know I have a proven record of making sure that we create jobs in the state of Texas. And if you look at the policies that Beto has already articulated, he would be crushing jobs in the state of Texas.
Last question. Governor, what kind of
Well, if you look at what we went through and what we've come out extraordinarily robustly. And it's because very early on, as you heard people up here talk about today, more than half of businesses stayed open. Others we were able to open up very rapidly, and it's led to a rapid economic recovery for the great state of Texas. Now we have far exceeded in adding more jobs than were lost during the course of the pandemic. Texas is one of just 4 states that has added more jobs than were lost during the pandemic. And so economically, it has been very good. For the families involved, they want to get back to normal as quickly as possible, and we have provided them the platform to be able to do that. I'll go back and answer your question. So on your question with regard to teacher pay, you omitted something very important. What you omitted is what we did in 2019. What the state of Texas did, what I promoted, and what I signed into law was, if not the largest, one of the largest teacher pay raise ever in the state of Texas. At the same time, Texas added more funding for public education than maybe ever before, and then we continued that in the 2021 session. I can tell you that there is no governor in the history of the state of Texas who's devoted more resources to public education than I have. Thank you all very much.